Hi everybody, this is Emily again. I am very glad that you came here for the final episode of my Ireland and Northern Ireland travels. Before I talk about the excursions for this presentation, I just wanted to show you what life was like in the cottage itself. So as I mentioned in the past, the cottage was not well insulated, but we had peat and so we warmed it up as much as we could. And we had a small, narrow kitchen, so it was a little difficult kind of getting through when you had like at least two people in it. And the living room was of normal size. But you know what? We made it work. Especially when we decided to have a family dinner in early April. We made tostadas and invited two of our friends who lived in the village. And they're actually in the upper right hand photo. Donald is the guy in the front, Ian is the guy in the middle, and of course there's Natalie, one of my cottage mates. And you know what? We had a good crack, which is actually Irish slang that we learned that means having a good time. So you know what? We had a good time. And speaking of a good time, I also had a good time going on these excursions throughout April and May. Connemara ponies are horses with short heads but strong bodies. They come from the Connemara region, which contains the towns and villages like Clifton, Letterfrack, and of course Tully Cross. The reason that I was able to see the Connemara ponies was that I was having a conversation one day with a gentleman from Tully Cross who owned a Connemara stallion that he was planning to breed with a Connemara mare. He asked me to accompany him to see how this process worked out, and I said yes. It didn't take us very long to get to the stable where it was supposed to happen. So the Connemara region is also known for its harsh areas, which I have shown from previous presentations, especially the January one. But that's the reason why these ponies have such athleticism and are strong individuals, especially when trying to climb up those mountains. So as I mentioned before, the owners wanted to breed their horses, which are seen in the top photos. Donald Mickey, the stallion, is in the upper left-hand photo, and Goldie, the mare, is in the upper right-hand photo. Donald Mickey was all for it, but Goldie didn't want to, so sadly that didn't happen. But, I got some pictures of the Connemara ponies, especially in the bottom photos. I especially love the one in the lower left-hand corner. Alright, now enough of that. So then in the middle of April, we took our third and final major excursion, this time to the southern portion of Ireland, starting with the Burren National Park in County Clare. The Burren National Park is in the southeastern corner of Burren, which is primarily located in the northwest area of County Clare. And if you want to see a map of it, then you just go to the last slide and then come back when you're done. So the park itself is 1,500 hectares, which is the equivalent of 3,705 acres. And the Irish government actually bought the land for nature conservation and public access, which means we went there for free. And what makes this park special is that it contains all the following major habitats listed here. And in case if you're wondering what calcareous means, that means that it contains calcium carbonate, or containing lime, or being chalky. And for more information, you can go on the Burren National Park website. So we're in the limestone pavement portion of the park, which had a little bit of calcareous grassland to it. So here is a close-up of the limestone pavement. So the slab-like flat surfaces areas of the pavement are known as the clints, and the grikes are the fissured cracks that dissect the clints. The grikes shelter the soil to grow, as well as from the wind. Here is the more flora-based area of the park. I believe it has more of the hazel scrub and ash hazel woodland to it, but I also like the message in the lower left-hand corner. And in the very back, it's actually a monk's cave. Who knew? And on the left is a tomb, or if I've seen those before. And on the right, I'm T-bowing, or what was known as the time thinking, because, a lot of people T-bowed in 2014. After our time at the Burren National Park, we then made our way to the Doonbeg Castle, a 16th century tower house located on the Galway Bay in County Galway and near the town of Connemara. And here's me right in front of the castle itself. And here's some more photos of the castle, including a sign to it, both in English and in Irish, and it's pretty much what you would expect of a 16th century castle. I mean, it's a really sturdy fortification, and I really liked exploring it. And here's more inside the castle, and it was nice to look at. And here's the town of Kinvara from Doonbeg Castle. After we finished visiting the castle, we spent a little time in the town of Kinvara. I think we had lunch there, but it was still a good town to visit, and we had a good time. Then afterwards, we visited the Rock of Cashel in County Tipperary. Also known as St. Patrick's Rock and Cashel of the Kings, the Rock of Cashel is reportedly the site of the conversion of Angus, King of Munster, by St. Patrick in the 5th century. A lot of the structure was built in the 12th and 13th centuries. On the left is a picture of the Rock of Cashel from the Moher Abbey, and on the right is a picture of the Moher Abbey from the Rock of Cashel. Here we are in, I believe it's one of the buildings in the Rock of Cashel, and I also believe that a lot of the objects seen here are original or mostly original to the site itself. Here we are inside Cormac's Chapel, which is located inside the Rock of Cashel. In the upper right-hand photo is of what the chapel should look like. Unfortunately, it has been impacted by microbiological growths which cause damage to the structure itself. And you can see some of the damage to the architecture in the bottom photos. And here is Cormac's Chapel from the outside that I took from the internet. So here are some other pictures of the Rock of Cashel, including Scully's Cross in the upper left-hand corner, a nice boulder in the upper right-hand corner, a round tower in the lower left, and some remodeling going on, as you see in the lower right-hand corner. Here are some pictures of the Moher Abbey. Me and a group of girls decided to explore it after visiting the Rock of Cashel, and much like with Dunluce Castle, there were certain parts that we had to be careful with, but luckily no one got hurt. And here are a couple pictures of me sitting on a little grassy area of the Moher Abbey. It was a nice day to be exploring that abbey. So we stayed in County Tipperary for a few days, and so one of the other things that we did while we were there was visit Cashel Castle. Built in 1142, Cashel Castle is one of the largest and most well-preserved castles in Ireland. These pictures do not capture how truly big it is. So here we're inside the fortress, where you see the crest in the upper left-hand corner and some cannons in the bottom photos, and a lot of greenery all around. And here we're inside the castle, and it's good to note that they use antlers for their decorating in the upper left-hand corner. And yeah, and it's pretty much what you would expect of a medieval castle. And here I'm on the top of Cashel Castle, taking pictures of both the town of Cashel and the River Suir. There was some excellent lighting that day, so I had to take advantage of taking photos. And here are some more pictures, especially of me and some of the people in my group just walking around the grounds. Like I said, it was a good day to take pictures. And here are some of the statues that I found at Cashel Castle, including a falcon one in the lower left-hand corner, a seal statue in the upper right-hand corner, and in the lower right-hand corner, I believe is an eel. Who cares? I thought it was cool. And here is a picture of the Cashel Memorial Garden, which I thought it was a nice looking garden. Then after County Tipperary, we stopped in Cove. For others, it was their first time, while for me, it was my second time. Fortunately, we went somewhere that I didn't go to before. And that was to the Cove Heritage Center. On the left is a statue of Annie Moher, the first immigrant to the U.S. to pass through federal immigrant inspection at Ellis Island in 1892, and it sits in the front of the center. On the right is the front doors to the Cove Heritage Center, which contains the name that the seaport had from 1849 to 1920. After Cove, I could have stayed with my group to explore Cork, but I had arranged a trip with Liam, a cousin of one of my friends from back home, to visit Kinsale, still in County Cork. Don't worry, I had gotten permission to do so from my professors earlier. For lunch, Liam and I went to the Bowman Bar, a slightly upscale restaurant in Kinsale. Food-wise, whenever I went out, I usually had sandwiches, fish and chips, and other typical Irish cuisines. But at Bowman's, I had a calamari salad. Who knew that combination went so well? And on the right is the River Brandon. Afterwards, we explored Charles Fort, a star-shaped fortification built between 1677 and 1682. It is located in Kinsale Harbor, about 1.5 miles away from Kinsale, and it was named after King Charles II. It was under siege for 13 days during the Williamite War, see Part 3 for more details about the war, and it remained garrisoned by the British Army until 1922, when it was partially burned and destroyed by anti-Irish Anglo Treaty forces during the Irish Civil War. In 1971, it was made a National Monument of Ireland and renovated in the years to come. Now here it is inside the fort, and we were able to go into the buildings themselves. And in the upper left-hand photo is Liam. And here's some other pictures of the grounds of Charles Fort, and like a lot of the places in Ireland, it was really good space to walk around. After I reunited with my group in Cork, we made our way to the Cliffs of Moher in County Clare. According to the official Cliffs of Moher website, the formation stretches 5 miles and reaches 702 feet at their highest point. It has been visited by people for over 200 years, and it even has appeared in films like The Princess Bride and Harry Potter and the Half-Blood Prince. O'Brien's Tower, seen in the lower right-hand photo, was built by Cornelius O'Brien, the landlord of the locality and descendant of the first High King of Ireland, as an observation platform for visitors. The tower has been restored multiple times, including last year. The upper left photo is of a statue of the formation itself, and the upper right picture contains some information on the cliffs as well as the puffins. In the lower left-hand corner is of a picture of a memorial dedicated to those who lost their lives at the Cliffs of Moher. Luckily, there was a barrier which allowed people to view the cliffs while feeling safe. On the lower right-hand corner is a picture letting people know that you can get free Wi-Fi. Cool. We also took advantage of the opportunity to go into a boat and see the cliffs from the bottom up. Sadly, I barely saw any puffins, but it was still a great experience nonetheless. After we arrived back in Tully Cross, it was close to Easter. For that holiday, we fulfilled a tradition done by previous Aquinas College study abroad groups. That involved getting up at 4 in the morning and climbing up Tully Mountain, which is 1,160 feet high, to see the sunrise. It took us about an hour or two to walk and climb up the mountain. Luckily, it was close to Letterfrack, so the walking portion did not take us very long. And here are my cottage mates Gabby, Morgan, Natalie, and I on top of Tully Mountain. And in case if you're wondering about the blanket, that belonged to our cottage mate Jackie, who unfortunately had to leave the program early due to personal issues. So that was for her. And man, it was a good time being on top of that mountain. And in the top photos are of the sun rising, including Gabby. We went on 2 more day trips, both of which were in County Galway. Up first is Enosh Boffin, not Enosh Boffin. I profusely apologize on the spelling in previous videos. Enosh Boffin is an island off the coast of Connemara. We mainly went there to appreciate its nature, and believe me, there is a lot to appreciate, including sheep. And here's some more photos of Enosh Boffin's beauty, like this cave. I mean, it is a cool looking cave. Hey look, a gray seal! Ah, you don't see those often. And here are some more photos of Enosh Boffin's nature, like of the rocks, the grassland, and more water. And like the cliffs of Moher, Enosh Boffin had a memorial dedicated to those who lost their lives there. And here's some additional photos of Enosh Boffin, including one of the island itself while I was on the ferry going back to the mainland. And last but not least was our day trip to Kalmar Abbey, in which we took at the very end of April. According to the official Kalmar Abbey website, it was originally built as a castle in 1868, but is now an abbey and home of the Benedictine community of nuns. These nuns originally came from Kalmar in 1920 after their abbey in Ypres, Belgium, was burned during World War I. Since that time, they opened a boarding school for girls and restored the abbey, the neo-Gothic church, and the Victorian walled garden. And here are some pictures of the neo-Gothic church in Kalmar Abbey, and it was really pretty to look at. And here are the grounds of Kalmar Abbey, including a photo of one of my professors, Dr. Burren, with his 3-year-old daughter, Posey. And here is pictures of the Victorian walled garden, which is comprised of 6 acres. This is of the eastern portion of the garden, as it contains lots of flowers and glass houses. Most of the photos here are of the shaded fernery, and in the lower right-hand corner is of the glass houses. Unfortunately, the glass houses were under construction at that time, but I do have a cool fact for you. In the late 1800s, the garden contained 21 heated glass houses. I mean, how innovative is that? This is the head gardener's home in the eastern portion of the garden, and I'm not sure if the person sitting on the bench with the dog is the head gardener, but I like to think it is. Here is the western portion of the garden. It contains a vegetable garden, fruit trees, and a rockery and a herb garden. Now, of course, this would be the part of the video where I say farewell, but in May, there was one last thing that we did in Ireland. Remember this photo from the last video? Well, we actually volunteered to help out at the Connemara Mussel Festival within the first week of May. Killary Harbour is Ireland's only true fjord that lies in northern Connemara and between the borders of counties Galway and Mayo. A lot of mussels are found in the fjord, so as a result, people in the area are able to grow and harvest them. The Connemara Mussel Festival involves eating lots of this shellfish. The people in my group did a lot of things like waitering and helping other vendors. I got to cook the mussels themselves, which simply involved putting them in a pot, heating them up, and waiting until their shells opened. This is the tent where the eating took place, and before the food was served, we had some entertainment with some set dancing. 2 of the photos are of a dance team who had returned from London after competing in the World Irish Dance Championships. They were really good. The festival also showcased the talents of Galway Mayo Institute of Technology students as they displayed stuff like cakes and furniture. They were all exquisite. And this is the shirt I wore during that festival. As this is the final slide in this presentation, if you want more information on my Ireland and Northern Ireland travels, feel free to contact me at blakowski@cidlibrary.org. Now I will bid you all farewell with the Irish term for goodbye, slán!